Hello, this is Justin Seven with SportsbookReview.com. Welcome to my first installment of Justin's Mailbox on May 20th, 2009. The first piece in my inbox is from Carpenter. Carpenter wrote, I read where the state of Delaware is going to institute sports wagering. Any news you know of? Sadly, I don't think this is likely to be anywhere near the next Vegas. If you look at Delaware's constitution, it's very prohibitive in what types of gambling they allow. Basically, you can do lotteries and horse wagering. So if you want to bet on a straight side, you know, who's going to win a football game or a baseball game, I don't see a way that the lottery is going to allow that. Now, there may be a way where you could have tons of picks that simulate a lottery, or where you use the scores in a game to create a lottery, but it won't be anything like Vegas where you're betting on a side to win. So if you want to, this is not going to displace Vegas in any way, unless Delaware changes their constitution. XXX007 wrote, Justin 7, I can make a deposit with Heroes and not fear non-payment. Will they continue to pay? Heroes Casino and Sportsbook has had a lot of slow pays right now, and while I think they're likely to continue paying people, I wouldn't send them any money until they clear up this backlog of payments. Anytime you're dealing with a sportsbook that may or may not be in distress, it's just common sense. Why would you send your money someplace that may or may not pay you? Easier just to wait it out, and I mean, there are plenty of good books out there that don't have problems. Pancho Saza wrote me with a baseball question. He asked, how would you use past player splits to model at-bats versus lefties righties? How far back would you go? Pancho is asking about something called a platoon split. In baseball, righty hitters do much better against lefty batters, and lefty batters do better against righty pitchers. So a lot of times in a game you'll see when there's a pinch hitter, one team will put in a pinch pitcher basically for that one hitter to make sure that the hands of the two match up. And there'll be games going back and forth. But in very close games, when you have a one-run game, there's a big difference. But the question is, how do you evaluate how much better a player will do against an opposite-handed pitcher? And there's a couple different ways to do it. You can look at the historical results for that player on his what they call the platoon split. How much better did he do against off-handed pitchers? But that's not very good because the sample size is small. You need to have literally thousands of at-bats to get a good grip on how someone is likely to do going forward. And it may take you, 10, 15 years to get 1,000 at-bats against an opposite-handed pitcher. So I think a better approach to use it is to look and see how do the group of right-handed batters do against left-handed pitchers in general. If you look at all the batters across the spectrum, you'll see that both lefties and righties typically will hit about 15 points better against an off-handed pitcher compared to how they normally do. So if you have a righty hitter who hits 250 and he goes up against a left-handed pitcher, you'd expect him to have a batting average of about 265. Same thing for a lefty. Now, if you have information on the pitcher, you can do a little bit better. Pitchers do get the number of at-bats required to make a good guess on their platoon split. So with that, you can actually look and say, well, how has this pitcher done with 1,000 pitches against a righty if he's left-handed, and see how he does compared to normal. Now, the second part of Pancho Saza's question was, what slugging percentage would you use when you're dealing with a platoon split? What I would assume is that the distribution of doubles, triples, and homers relative to singles will be the same, just that there will be fewer or more hits depending on the split. So if a person's batting average, for example, goes from 250 to 265, he's getting roughly 6.5% more hits. I'd say I'd expect 6.5% more doubles, triples, and home runs as well. Against All Odds wrote me asking about correlated parlays with run lines and totals. He wrote, I can assume most books don't allow it because it gives some edge to the bettor. But what ways does it do this? Any game in which you bet on a favorite who's likely to win, you often have one half inning less of opportunities to score. So an example of a play that might be correlated, let's say you have a huge home favorite, a minus 300 favorite, then 75% of the time there would only be 8.5 innings instead of 9. So you'd expect the total runs scored to go down by 1/18, roughly 5%. In that instance, there will be a correlation between the home favorite and the under. the correlation between the run lines and the totals is actually a little bit stronger. If you have an extremely low scoring game, then the underdog is more likely to lose by exactly 1 than if you have a high scoring game. So in that case, there would be a correlation between taking the dog plus 1.5 runs with the under. And by the same logic, if you have a team winning by several runs or more, it's more likely to be a high scoring game. So you have a correlation between taking minus 1.5 runs and the over. Now these correlations aren't as strong as some of the college football correlated parlays you'll see, but they're strong enough to roughly overcome the juice, or depending on the situation, better or worse. I wouldn't go betting them blindly, but what I would do is identify plays you like, and if a book allows you to do this, then use this to make your plays a little bit stronger. That's all for this week. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to Justin@sportsbookreview.com.